Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. And since it is Christmas Eve as the time I'm recording this is going to feel a little quicker than usual only because I have stuff to do later and I kind of want to get this video up as soon as possible. I was originally just going to postpone it, but I figured let's just do it now since I have the time. But my predictions for last week were that number 1 was going to be Star Wars The Last Jedi, number 2, Pitch Perfect 3, number 3, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, number 4, The Greatest Showman, and number 5, Ferdinand. And I actually got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right, which is actually pretty cool. I knew that my number 2 and number 3 predictions would get a little mixed up there because those two were kind of debatable, but let's go into what actually happened. Number 1 being Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, this film unfortunately had a huge drop of about 68-69% from last weekend, and it is the hugest drop that any Star Wars film lately has had, at least. I didn't go back to check the prequels or anything like that, but considering Force Awakens and Rogue One, this is definitely the largest drop. And that was to be expected because there was a huge kind of backlash towards this film, but this movie is still making money, and it's not in any trouble or anything, and it made $68 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $365 million, and on the worldwide charts we have it at $745 million, so it's still doing considerably very well. Of course, it is Star Wars, and they released a budget. I'm not sure if this is entirely accurate, though, because this movie seems more expensive than $200 million, which is what they're saying the budget is, but so far it seems that they've already doubled their budget, and as soon as they get to $1 billion, they're going to be great, and we already know they're going to get to $1 billion anyways. Number 2 was Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, making $34 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $50 million because this movie came out on Wednesday, so it has that extra 2 days, and considering that the budget is only $90 million and no worldwide charts have been released yet, this movie's actually doing pretty solid as far as having a good opening, especially on Christmas, and being able to compete with Star Wars. So far, it's estimated to make only like half of what Star Wars is making this weekend, so that's pretty good. A bunch of these movies are probably going to hold over fairly well too, considering that Star Wars is a big competition and also it's Christmas, so I expect that next weekend these movies are kind of going to not have that much of a big drop, you know. Number 3 is Pitch Perfect 3, making $20 million. Not as big at opening as the second movie, but also bigger than the first movie, so that's pretty good for them either way. They're on a budget of $45 million, so also not a bad start for this film, even though it isn't as big as the second one so far. It's still not a terrible opening considering the time it's coming out. Number 4 is The Greatest Showman, and this is the only movie I can actually predict isn't going to be considered a success after a while. It made $8 million this weekend, that adding to a domestic total of $13 million because it opened on Wednesday like Jumanji, and its budget is $84 million, which means they need to get to about 168 to be considered a success. And there's no worldwide total yet, and the reception towards this film isn't the greatest so far. Same with Pitch Perfect 3, but that's a part of a pre-established franchise, and Greatest Showman kind of isn't, so I'm not sure how well this movie's going to hold over. Number 5 is Ferdinand, making $7 million, adding to a domestic total of $26 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $34 million. It looks like we're still looking at a blue sky bomb here. Like, I didn't want to say that immediately last weekend since it was opening with Star Wars, but considering that this movie didn't hold up as like that much, you know, maybe you can consider it a bomb right now, especially because the worldwide chart isn't really adding much to it. Number 6 is Coco, an animated film doing fairly well, making $5 million, adding to a domestic total of $161 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at 486, 14 million away from getting to 500 million worldwide, which is very cool. Can't wait to talk about it next week when I release my best list. Number 7, Downsizing, the movie I kind of predicted wouldn't make the top 5, and it's probably not going to get its $68 million budget back either because it made $4.6 million this weekend. I didn't really expect this movie to make that much money, and this is just kind of obvious to me. There's no worldwide totals yet, so maybe it'll get some boost there, but I don't think I see this film being that big of a success. Number 8 is Darkest Hour, starring Gary Oldman, the film that's been getting a lot of praise lately, and it finally creeped into the top 10, making $4.1 million, adding to a domestic total of $6 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at $12 million. Now the budget is of course $30 million, so it's not quite there yet. Maybe when the Oscars come around, because I'm sure they're going to nominate Gary Oldman, this movie will get a bit more of a boost. Number 9 is Father Figures, making $3.2 million, on a budget of $25 million. Not a good start for this film at all. Kind of predictable though, because no one was really hyping this movie up, and I think the movie was supposed to come out like last year or something like that, and they pushed it back this long, and I think it's just going to get lost in the puddle of films that we already have, which was to be expected. Closing out the top 10 is The Shape of Water, finally getting in there. It made $3.05 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $7 million, and I'm hoping The Praise gets this film more money, because on its budget it has $19.5 million. That means it needs to get to about $39 million to be considered a success, so I hope that more people go out to see it in the near future. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think will still be Star Wars The Last Jedi, without a doubt. Number 2, Jumanji, I think it'll still hold there. Number 3, Pitch Perfect 3. Then I'm going to say number 4 is All the Money in the World. That's the only film that's really expanding or getting released in a ton of theaters next week, so I'm going to say All the Money in the World. And number 5, The Greatest Showman. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave it in the comments below. And if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher, and Merry Christmas Eve. And also Merry Christmas, because I'm not making a video tomorrow. See you guys next time.